All right, peeps. Welcome to Inside the Numbers with the People's Pundit. I'm your host, Rich Barris, the People's Pundit. I just laugh. I'm immediately laughing, and you're going to hear why in a second. Don't forget, if you like the videos, to like them and to share them far and wide. Update, reminder, whatever you want to call it. To contributors of the Public Polling Project, please go and check out your dashboard and make sure that you're not doing a reoccurring if you do not want a reoccurring contribution, okay? Or just go and check it out anyway and make sure that if you do, you're in the right campaign. All right. So a campaign can be a quarter. And within that quarter, there are, let's call it 3 polls, right, for the quarter. Reoccurring ones will keep contributing to the surveys in that campaign. That's fine. But you may be in last quarter. You may still be in the political violence survey, right? Like there are people who are still doing that, and so on and so forth. So make sure that you are in the right one if you even want to be in one at all. Okay. All right. Let's get that out of the way. All right. Again, don't forget, if you like the videos, to like them and to share them far and wide. I got to start putting the gram up in here. The gram. All right. I got a gram, and I got to start pushing it. I got like 300 followers. Got what, 250,000 on X, more than that. And like 300 on Instagram. And truth is, we do a lot of research on social media usage, news consumption, all of that goes into a lot of the surveys we do. And the fact of the matter is, what? 37%. Yeah, there was a state poll. I keep getting confused. But 37% nationally registered voters, the voting eligible population, whatever you want to call it, actually use X. Now, that's a highly politicized social media website, more so than I think others, but Instagram is actually much higher. And more importantly to me, the younger audience, I would say younger, but 45 and below, Instagram is just totally dominant, right? Even with Elon bringing those numbers up, it's totally dominant. The good thing about X is that there are a lot more independent-minded people on X around. I believe 38% actually identify as independents compared to some of the other sites that are much, much more partisan. And actually, X got less partisan under Elon for a while. I don't know what it is now. I'd have to go back and look, but it is what it is. All right, do we dive into the wrong turns first, or do we just... I think first I want to address something that, I got blown organization. For those of you who don't know, we did last year, which you'll see some big things with it this year. We started the National Association of Independent Pollsters. We're starting to take in new members. There's going to be a lot more to come. I don't want to put the cart before the horse, but my phone blew up because I didn't see it. And as the chairman, I had pollsters from all walks of life calling, going, have you seen this? And I didn't. And then so when I looked at it, obviously I had my own take, but we all conferred. I held a bit of a meeting and we talked this over. Let's just bring it up. Okay. So for locals, and I very much appreciate, because I put the statement up on locals. That's why you're my locals community, because you can think for yourselves. You're not just thinking for a party or whatnot. But let me put this up first. And by the way, here's the ta-da. You guys like that? That's the founding members of the of the NAIP. ChatGTP did that, which is pretty funny, right? All right. And I put that up with the statement because just so everybody understands, look, I hate when the media says we're like his most favorable pollsters or favorite pollsters relating to Trump. But the fact of the matter is, when they say favorable, what they really mean is accurate. And I was the most accurate national poll. I've been, since 2016, the most accurate national and state pollster in the Trump era. Some people obviously have done better in certain states than we have. You can't get them right everywhere, within a 10th percentage point. But not every pollster polls statewide and nationally, and that is different. Like, look at TIP, for instance, trying to poll North Carolina. They have 24% for Whatley. Yes, we have Whatley down as well, but another poll came out almost immediately after that, had it 48-42. We had it 48-40. It's very possible that likely voter screen and the other, maybe that was, I didn't get a chance to look at it, but we were using the entire register voter as of that point in our North Carolina survey. Just fact of the matter is, Whatley's getting killed by 20 points among independents, almost like many other Republicans all over the country right now. But 24% is ludicrous. So it does matter, because you have some people who can poll nationally, and that's fine. You can't just jump into a state and publish results thinking that because I poll nationally, I know how to poll a state. It's not true. We spent the entire election cycle of 2014 polling privately. We did release some stuff publicly, but North Carolina was one of them, by the way. But and Florida, North Carolina and Florida, I think that might have been the only two. But we did a ton of work privately to make sure that we were being responsible and not just coming out of the woodwork and pretending we knew what we were doing. There's so many pollsters that aren't doing that. They just pop up and maybe they just polled a state, but now they're going to drop a national poll. It's not the same thing. And any pollster is a seasoned pollster will tell you that. Anyway, so the phone starts blowing up over this. And I don't want to spend too much time on this. I just want to give you my response because I do think, first of all, a lot of people are relying on me to say this out loud. Second of all, it's very, very important to kill this in the crib. All right. Fake and fraudulent polling should be virtually a criminal offense. And by the way, I don't disagree with that because he's characterizing it as fake and fraudulent. All right. It's just, I guess where we disagree, and I'll show you in a second, is what constitutes provable false and bogus polling. And that's the difference. Like, so the poll, I don't like it because it underpolled me, or I don't like it because it was wrong a little bit, is not a legitimate reason for a politician to sue somebody. But let me read this. As an example, all of the anti-Trump media that covered me during the 2020 election showed polls that were knowingly wrong. They knew what they were doing, trying to influence the election. But I won in a landslide, including winning the popular vote, all 7 of the 7 swing states, the Electoral College route, and 2,750 counties to 525. All right. Obviously, we have to, even if Donald Trump did win the Electoral College, which I am one of the people who clearly say without COVID, Donald Trump would have won the Electoral College. And by that, I mean without the left's ability to exploit weaknesses in our electoral process, such as unsolicited ballots, unsoliciting mail-in ballots, Donald Trump almost certainly would have won the Electoral College, but he would not have won the popular vote. So let's come back down to planet Earth here. All right. The Electoral College was the failing New York Times, ABC News, NBC News, fake NBC fake news, ABC fake news, CBS fake news, low rating CNN, or the now defunct MSDNC, which is now MS Now. Polls were all fraudulent and bore nothing even close to the final results. I have to say, ABC News, Gary Langer. Now, Mr. President, this is a much better and provable example of fraudulent polling. CNN, I could also, with their co-sponsorship with Ann Seltzer of the Des Moines Register poll before the 2020 Democratic caucuses, these are different examples. And ABC, what am I talking about? Look, Gary Langer was the longtime pollster for ABC News, Langer Research. They came out with a Biden plus 17 or something in the state of Wisconsin. The state was decided by a few thousand votes. All right. When we got into the 2024 cycle, going past the 22 midterms, there were a lot of big things that were going on. Gary caught on to those big things. What were they? The mind changer, the 2-to-1 at least mind changer dynamic, the Hispanic swing to Donald Trump, the increased support among Black voters, specifically Black men, younger voters swinging to Donald Trump. Gary was on that, and he was trying, I think, and you guys may remember, he had some very big Trump leads. It was like Trump plus 6 nationally. I think one of them was Trump plus 12. It was like 52-40. He was trying to do what any pollster would do when you have such a bad result like he had in 2020. And that is not chase the weights, but course correct. Do better. What did I do wrong? COVID was a weird year to poll. It was a difficult year to poll because we had a bunch of people who were Zoomers who hated Trump and these fanatical women who were like, get away from me, get away from me, 6 feet, 6 feet, wearing like 8 masks in their face, fucking space suits in the parking lot. You guys remember, you know what I'm talking about. All of these women and like gay men, and I don't mean that in a bad way, I'm not being derogatory, but effeminate men who don't actually have to work for a living, all right, they decided I'm going to join every panel, opt-in panel in the industry. And I'm going to sit there all day long and click orange man bad, orange man bad, orange man bad. If you didn't have experience in the field, which many of these guys don't, when it came to new data collection modes like online panel response, online paneling, opt-in, whether it's whatever. If you didn't have experience, and they didn't do it in 16 like we did. They didn't do it in 18 like we did. So by the time they got to 2020, even though there were warning signs in 18, by the time we got to 2020, they didn't even know how to block survey forwarding. Hell, Marist, who just got into it in 24, they didn't block survey forwarding. They still haven't blocked survey forwarding. I kid you not. I just exploited a survey like a week and a half ago. They still haven't done it. But these guys, they didn't know. And here, Gary's trying to change his methodologies, coming up with good stuff. And what happens? George Stephanopoulos personally sees to it that Gary Langer is, and they say he wasn't really fired. He was fired. The methodology that they started to use with Gary overseeing data collection is the YouGov panel, which is buying responses from our marketplace because they're overextended, because now everybody's using them. CBS is using them. ABC is using them. Even the New York Times is somewhat using them. Yahoo News is using them. The Economist is using them. They're overextended. But he was trying. They fired him. It is now it is not done the way that Gary Langer has long conducted his polling. That's a better example. But I'll get into that more in a second. Polls were all fraudulent and they bore nothing even close to the final results. Not us. Something has to be done about fraudulent polling. We agree. Even the polls of Fox News and the Wall Street Journal have been, over the years, terrible. The other day, and I'm just going to say this, what do you got against Tony? The White House asked me. Here's what I got against Tony. Mr. President, the Wall Street Journal is your fucking pollster. That's your pollster. The guy who all at the end of last year, going into the spring and the fall, who told you everything was good, don't believe people like us, he polls for the Wall Street Journal. So while he's handing you 50% approval ratings, he's giving the Wall Street Journal the real number. Because that's his reputation. He's calling out his own pollster. There are great pollsters that called the election right, but the media does not want to use them in any way, shape, or form. I appreciate that. That is a shout out to people like me and Matt and Robert and Mark, and I appreciate that. I do. It would have been nice to cite it, Mr. President, but it's fine. Whatever. Isn't it sad what has happened to American journalism? But I am going to do everything possible to keep this polling scam from moving forward. Now, this sentence specifically, all right, isn't it sad what happened to American journalism? That's the issue. And I'm just going to read my statement verbatim so I don't miss anything. But this is an important distinction. All right. And again, locals, you guys are great because you know exactly where I'm going with this. First of all, again, like I said, don't get me wrong. It's entirely conceivable. Oh, just to put, just to put it everyone in context here. So he added the New York Times Siena College poll to the $15 billion defamation lawsuit that he has against the news media for the coverage of the 24 election. And so while he's citing 2020 and the rest of it, in the actual documents, it will be specifically directed at 24. And that's problematic. And here, let's go back to this. Problematic for a number of reasons. All right. And first of all, don't get me wrong. It's entirely conceivable from the work produced and Nate Cohn, sorry, I had an E in there. It shouldn't be in there. His own article released with the final round of New York Times polling that cycle, that they bent over backwards to give Kamala Harris a pathway she never had in 24. Now, I said it's entirely conceivable, but I'll do you one better right here and tell you that I absolutely believe that the New York Times slightly tweaked their numbers to give Kamala Harris an edge that she never had. And what confirms, in my mind, What confirms my suspicion, not because of the weights and how the states came out versus the national, that's somebody tweaking weights. All right. Anyone who's a pollster knows he's over there tweaking weights. And I don't know if he did it or Sienna did it, but in his article that he released before the election day, it was like a day before election day, he specifically says, yeah, here's the numbers. And here, we're technically projecting Kamala to win the Electoral College. But let me just add this as a caveat. We didn't really wait properly. What? And by the way, there was a drop in Republican responses in the final week, which is all we gave you. We were actually polling the week before, and it was Trump in a rout. But, they dropped off at the end, so that's it. Now, here's a tricky thing about polling. That can happen, especially among Republicans. They have interviewed, they have told you over and over again who they're going to vote for. Even independents do this, and then they're just done. So 2 to 4 days before the election, they're checked out. The participation rate falls, and if you don't really recognize that that's a drop in part, again, this is why having methodologies that guard against response bias are very important. He knew it because he saw it, but he chose to weight it the way that he felt would be defendable, but also to give Kamala Harris a tiny edge, even though if you look at the full national ballot, which was Trump +1, there was no way for him to do it with the weights. It was just too much of it was too strong of a coalition. But in the states, you could tweak it a little bit. So that's what he did. And he gave her a pathway that I believe she didn't have. All right. But those of us who correctly polled the 24 election know that she never had a meaningful chance. If you look at those of us who did the best job in 24, you will see that there is at really no point in that cycle that either Joe Biden or Kamala Harris ever had a meaningful chance, meaning they had an advantage. It was not just a fleeting bump here and there, but there was somewhere in the national polling and in the state polling that told us that Kamala Harris at this point really is ahead. And if the election was today, Kamala Harris was going to win. Same thing, ditto Joe Biden. They never had a chance. Like, I was very clear about that. I spent the last month of the election trying to prepare the left for the inevitable loss that they were about to suffer, and I was very afraid that they were going to go ape shit again. But as the chairman of the National Association of Independent Pollsters, I'm very uncomfortable with the idea of political figures suing pollsters for polls they don't agree with. More to the point, I can think of multiple other polling outfits, public polling, media, university, or otherwise, for which a far stronger case of blatantly bogus polling could be made than the New York Times polling in 24. Look, Barack Obama quietly used the heavy hand of government to scare Gallup out of the horse race polling in industry following the 2012 election, despite it being only one of 2 times in their entire history to fail to predict the popular vote winner in a presidential contest. The other one, of course, being Truman Dewey. In my opinion, they now exist as a shadow of their former great polling firm that once were. Completely unreliable, unbelievable, and at the end of the day, what are they, guys? If they don't do elections, untested. Further, I'm concerned even personal lawsuits will stifle innovation in the industry. Back in 2016, we pioneered alternative modes of data collection and methodology to reduce response bias as artifacts themselves of tired practices. But under this premise, under what the president wants to do, folks, all pollsters, including our founding members here, which is me, Big Data Poll, it's a Big Data Poll, Insider Advantage, which is Matt Towery, Rasmussen, which of course is got other people to face, Rasmussen, Mark Mitchell, Trafalgar, which is Robert Cahaly, we'll all and everyone else will find themselves in an impossible situation. It will prevent us from daring to be better. Those innovations led to more accurate polling in 2016 and other years, but just because that may not always be the case, sometimes that those innovations will be wrong. It doesn't mean that they're still not necessary to the evolution of the industry. But, look, again, we do agree with President Trump. Something has to be done, especially about egregious misbehavior in the polling industry. I've spent my entire career advocating for it. Guys, I invented the polling critic industry. It didn't exist until the People's Pundit came around. There's a bunch of wannabes and interlopers now, but for 10 years, it was just me. Also recognize the right of individuals to sue media outlets who engage in reckless disregard for the truth. That's the standard. But this is not the right path. Polling has long been understood as more of an art form than a science. It provides broad guidance for a snapshot in time. Pollsters cannot be expected to provide a definitive answer to what is true, as we should and do expect from journalists. You're not dealing with the same situation where you're chasing down a story and there's a set of facts and a fact pattern. That's not what we do. There's no statistics in journalism. There is a much fairer, more rigorous approach to policing bad actors posing as public opinion pollsters. And we'd be happy to help the president to determine which is the right path to take, but this is not it. I'll tell you right now, there's no money in right-wing polling. For all you Trump supporters out there who are clapping along and you thought this was great, there's no money for being an honest pollster on the right, even in the center. All of the money is on the left, and if you want to make money on the right, there's money in line. There's no money in being honest. All of those fucking lights are going to go off in those offices. Because nobody's going to take that risk. I was advised not to say this, but let me just say this. Let's say as a hypothetical, because I am going to say, I think it's important. Let's say as a hypothetical, in 2016, our tracking project, which was the entire point of it, was to show people that random digital dial and the live caller model were grossly flawed. And that swings in the poll, like the ABC News poll, the tracking poll at the end, it started like Clinton plus 14 or Clinton plus 12, and then ended up Clinton plus 2. That's bullshit. And at the very best, those are artifacts of the polls themselves. If you didn't, and I don't want to give it all away, but that's when we started to build large online representative samples with the help of voter file vendors who helped us do this and tracked who was in that representative panel. 25 to a third of a 2,000 to 3,000 sample response, because there were more than that, but we tried to get 2,500 to 3,000 in a 7-day until it rolled into a 3-day rolling average. That's what the response universe was in a given, 3-day rolling average heading into the election. We wanted 25 to 33% to be repeat of those. So generally everyone had to reply with their responses at least once a week. People had different due dates, although they missed them a lot. That's part of the process. I don't want to get into it, but let's say I was wrong. But I came closer than the media did, because the media overstated Hillary's support. Let's say I was wrong, but Hillary still won. Even though the innovation that we were engaging in was great, needed to be done. We were dragging the polling industry into the 21st century. Even though that had to be done, under this, Hillary could have just sued me. And I'd be gone right now. Poof, gone. I would not have been here to more accurately poll Senate races in 18 compared to the national media, who sucked. Even though they got the House vote right, they still sucked at the Senate. I definitely would not have been here to poll 2020 in the very election the president just cited, let alone 24. And I'm telling you, there are a few good people who are doing this job well, and they're basically doing it for peanuts. They're doing it out of a sense of duty and obligation. Nobody wants to say it out loud because nobody ever wants to really say that. The public polls they release are being paid for out of their own pocket. Do you think they're making enough money by website subscriptions? This is bullshit. They're doing it out of the goodness of their own heart. You do this shit and they're out. And you can enjoy all of the polls from the big corporate media outlets who can afford to take lawsuits like that. because they're not doing it. I already know. We've already been told. It's already the independent, honest polling space in this industry is already on life support. That's why everybody takes the money. Not everybody. A few obviously have not, but that's why so many do. And that's sad. This is the wrong way to go. There is a much better way. We've thought long, and very hard about this. Throwing it in a lawsuit like that is definitely not the right way. All right. It's 2:26. Let's just move on now because I do want to leave some time for questions. It's Friday. We did on Wednesday too, but definitely want to make sure. I already saw one at locals like bing pop right up. So I don't know if there's any on YouTube yet on the super chats on YouTube, but on locals there's already starting to get a list. So all right, let's move along. Oh man, the next thing that absolutely blew up my phone, and I got to be careful how much I explain here, is the remarks that the president made about immigration. Listen, eventually all will be revealed. But last year, it became very clear that a group of people led by one person in particular have decided that they're going to try to exhaust the last of Donald Trump's political capital on immigration reform, with obviously the big donor class wanting this to include some form of amnesty. And I knew that it would be sold to the president as a way to get his numbers back with Hispanics. I have already alluded to the fact that we have done a ridiculous number of interviews on the topic of immigration to include any reforms and proposals. Also, behavior with ICE, opinions about ICE, tolerance toward ICE, because the American public truthfully gave ICE and the administration 5-6 months to throw a real heavy hand. Just throw bolos everywhere and get rid of them. But at some point late last year, between September and November, specifically October, November, they needed to start to come back to the American public to like kind of renew the mandate. Like, do you understand why we take the heavy-handed approach that we do? Do you know who we're throwing out of the country, right? They didn't do any of that. Do you know why ICE has to wear masks? Nothing. Like, for instance, the left now, after having months and months and months of free reign over the messaging and the narrative, they are only recently dealing with a little bit of pushback from the right. The right's trying to play catch up. Honestly, it's too late. On a lot of these things, it's too late. The administration did not react quick enough. They have lost this argument. For instance, ICE has to take off the masks. It's over. Blake Neff is right about that. He knows because he's seen. We've talked a lot about this on that show. It's over. You're never going to convince the American public that the left is such a danger to the ICE agents that they have to walk around with fucking masks on looking like stormtroopers of the Stasi or something. It's over. You lost the argument. Take the masks off. And honestly, there were Green Berets and Navy SEALs running all over Afghanistan and all over Iraq, not wearing masks. They had prices and bounties on their head. Remember Scott? He got drugged through the streets of Iraq once they caught him. So you know what? That's the price of serving your country. I don't know what to tell you. If you would have handled this better, then maybe that we wouldn't have gotten here. But there is no chance that the right will win that argument now. It is over. They're trying at this point to salvage the argument about what constitutes a criminal who is on a list of deportation for ICE, or at that point, apprehension. They're starting to get a little bit better of an idea of that. But the fact of the matter is, ICE took a real bad beating. ICE is now more unpopular than the Federal Bureau of Investigation, which attempted not one, but 2 coups against the United States duly elected sitting president. That's how pathetic the right has been in controlling this narrative. That's why Trump's approval on immigration is so bad, compared to where it used to be for his entire tenure during his first term, even with all of the crap we heard about in the first term and all the lawsuits and all the BS, it was still his strongest issue. Not anymore. We may actually have him -2 in this poll that's coming out. I don't know. It's close. I don't know. We'll see. But it's not going to be the usual +10, +5 to 15. He took a beating along with ICE, and they have to adapt to that. One of the ways they are going to be told by certain people, the donor class and some of his very bad advisors, some of the ways they're going to be told to adapt to that is to give an amnesty. Go Jeb Bush. Just go full Jeb Bush. I knew this was coming. So I attempted. Shut up. My phone's ringing. So I didn't attempt. I did. Insert myself into this process. And it does appear that somebody may have gotten around me. And that's where these comments came from. Because they got to him before or in the proper setting. Even though I warned them this was going to happen. Because I knew it. You know when someone's bullshitting you. I said, look, in the new year, this is what you can expect. He fucking fell right for it. It's remarkable. It's just incredible. You can literally tell them something like, this is going to happen to you. Like, beware of the Ides of March. And this motherfucker would still walk out in the parliament. Like, I mean, or the Senate. He would still do it. Like, the Ides of what? To his doom. I don't know what else to do. You don't use the word immigration reform ever, 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 ever. Yes, it could help you. Certain immigration reforms could help you win back some of the more squishy middle vote that you have lost, who currently now have a 49% strongly disapprove rating of you. It could. But if you don't do it right, it's going to cost you 20% of your base. And then just la-di-da-di-da-di-da-di-da. It's unbelievable. You guys ever watch Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade? You know? And Henry, his father, because he's Henry Jones, and then obviously Indiana Jones is Henry Jones Jr. Well, they want Indiana to go through these 3 trials, they're booby traps, that the Templars set after they found the Holy Grail, and he won't do it. And they shoot Henry Sr., who's played by Sean Connery, one of the most men's man person ever. Like, this guy was a boxer in the slum of Scotland and grew up to be who he is. Sean Connery or whatever, Britain. I don't remember where he's from. But this guy, man's man. Anyway, sitting with a bullet on the floor. And he's been studying these trials his whole life. They're his life. The Grail is his life's work. Nobody knows it better than him. And every time Indiana gets to one of the trials, he's like, oh my God, and he's trying to, but he can't warn, he's trying to warn Indiana, but it's like he just can't because he can't speak loud enough. He can't, he's got a bullet in him, hindering him, whatever. And he's like, a penitent man kneels, Henry, kneel, Indiana. And he's like, at last minute, damn near gets his head cut off. At least Indiana's more resourceful. Jehovah starts with an I in Latin. Oh shit, through the floor. That's how I feel right now. Like Henry Sr., who's like, Jehovah starts with an I in the Latin. Kneel. What? Listen.
Many countries opened up their prisons and dropped them into the United States. Those are the people who are getting out. And we have a lot of heart. They said, you got to lighten up on this. We have a lot of heart for people. They came in illegally, but they're good people, and they're working now on farms, and they're working in luncheonettes and hotels. And
holy shit, he just pulled Jeb Bush. Go look at the comments on Twitter in response to this video. Go look. You think Twitter's bad? Go look. The penitent man kneels, Mr. President. You don't know that's a 180 from your 10-year campaign promise? That's one thing Ann Coulter was always right about. And that was a huge part of bringing back in some of that Ross Perot-like coalition that's fractured off Republicans that only America first gets. They will never come out. They will never come out for you if you just go, oh, these are real nice people. Jeb Bush spent thousands and thousands of dollars per caucus vote in Iowa and got his ass kicked and ended his campaign right there because he said that. Because he said that. Have a heart. Killed Jeb Bush's campaign in the crib. That statement was the end. Not that he was going to go far, but that was the end. When he said that, it was over. You just won over mass deportations. You won on a platform of a mass deportation project, the likes of which the country has not seen since Eisenhower. The country still supports it. They just want you to be a little bit more clear about what it is you're doing. So when MS Now runs an article or runs a segment showing this poor 5-year-old who ICE abandoned, when in truth, the real story is the father left that kid to die and freeze to death. Fight for the narrative. Don't give up your principles. Because when you abandon the narrative like that, and you abandon your principles, you abandon the voters who vote for you. This is the one thing I think many Trump supporters thought, okay. He's probably going to bomb Iran, but we still have mass deportations. Oh, I'm melting. You got to be kidding me. After being warned, you can't even use some of these terms without MAGA revolting. We literally gave you better words to use.
And we're looking to get the criminals. And I think it's very important. I mean, every once in a while you see a story, we take somebody. He should be out because they came in illegally. So in theory, they should be. But we're focused on the murderers, the drug dealers, the mentally insane. We have a lot of mentally insane killers. I mean, you can't even talk to them. It'd be nice if you could have a little reason, but you can't even reason. These are seriously ill people. You have a couple of countries where
all good.
They were loaded up. Their mental institutions and insane asylums were loaded to the gills. They're empty now. But they're filling up because we're bringing them all back. We know where they came from. And every country accepts them. Under Biden, they wouldn't say, they had so little respect that they'd bring them there and they wouldn't take them. They say, get the hell out of here. They would be bringing a plane in to land.
Yeah, the story. We all know the stories, Mr. President. None of what you just said matters at all. Because you prefaced it with the Jeb Bush line. And you lost 20%. They just tuned out. Blah, 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 blah. Who gives a shit? You just used the worst trigger words you could possibly use. And I'm being nice here and I'm only playing this clip. We all know there are others. I'm open. You think it just happened to come organically after his New York Times long form interview in which he says, I would love to do comprehensive immigration reform. You think this is organic and Donald Trump got this idea in his head all of a sudden? Nope. It's a donor planted idea. And what's so stunning to me is that, again, you were warned and you were given an alternative even to how to sell some of these things. So let's go down a couple of things. There is a way to thread the needle and get, he used the word now, so it's too late, and get an immigration package done without MAGA revolting and with getting some people on board. The needle, I'll tell you right now, the biggest problem is going to be Democrats, because Democrats are going to look at it and be like, oh my God, this is a winner. There's no way I'm going to let this guy get this bill. Like, it's too much of a winner. You could run on that. Try to pass it, let it fail. But the people who came in under Biden, non-starter, non-negotiable, they have to go. All of them have to go. Nobody who came under, and by the way, this isn't just hardcore MAGA. This is his coalition, a bigger number than his coalition. They came in, and the longer you go on with these heavy-handed ICE tactics that do, or I should say they just look heavy-handed, they're sloppy, and the narrative sucks, because I defend ICE. Of course I defend ICE. Although there's things they need to do better. When the FBI goes and arrests somebody, you can't get any within 3-4 fucking how you can't even get on that fucking block. If the local law enforcement doesn't want to help you to secure the area, you throw them in jail and you call in some of the FBI agents who are too busy persecuting conservatives all the time anyway. And believe you me, when those protesters see FBI in yellow and white letters on the back of their jackets, they're not coming down that road. Since you beat your quota anyway for hiring, control the damn area and half of this shit wouldn't even happen. But it doesn't matter. None of them. You can still do that. Deporting all of the people that you know who you've been able to ascertain came in under Biden. Not a single one of the immigrants who came in the... Why? Because not just the right. America feels as if they were being invaded and exploited. Anyone who came under Biden is not viewed to be a fucking dreamer. They're viewed to be criminals. There was an easy way to chip off something. I can't get into all of the details, but there was a way to do this. That's not the way. Not even close. Oh my God. And I picked the nice clip. We all know I picked the nice clip. The other one is just like, what? Next thing you'll know, he'll be saying he never campaigned on tariffs. Like, he'll get rid of all the tariffs and he'll be like, say something to the effect of, I don't know what you're talking about. I never said I was getting better trade deals. Like, that's how upside down this shit is from the Donald Trump who ran. People are already dealing with dismantling the deep state that's not being dismantled. People are already dealing with constant prospects for new wars that he said he would never get involved in. You throw this into the mix, and this is just a beep, 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 beep. That's all, folks. Like, that's it. All right? JD, wait till 2032, okay? If you're lucky. You bust my ball all over that the other way. But it's just the case, this is just, this is upside down. And for like the Trump supporters who never want to admit anything, all right? Like, you're on a whole new level of like sycophancy if you're defending that shit. Dreamers. You do realize that, right? He's talking about dreamers. He ran on mass deportations. Literally said the biggest mass deportation operation since Eisenhower. They said, Mr. President, you can't do that. You can't get rid of millions of people. And he said, who says I can't? Eisenhower did it. I can do it. And now there's this. And it's a shame, too, because so many of the things that came after what he said are needed badly to be said. About the criminals. We're focused on the criminals. Now, it would have been better if he would have said, this is what constitutes being a criminal, like giving some ideas. But he actually did do really good during the White House press briefing. And he was like holding up, like, I don't want to give away something here with personal information, but he was like holding up pictures like, this is so-and-so and so-and-so. A child rapist. This is so-and-so and so-and-so. This guy traffics drugs. Like, that was great. But it almost didn't matter because when you preface it with something like that, people have a meltdown, which is what you saw on social media. They had a legit meltdown over it. Hold on. I'm being told to check an interview real quick. Just give me 1 second. I don't know. It means it's a good one. Let me see. How many we collect today, boss? Ooh, this is a good amount. We may actually even be able to turn this off for the day. Ooh, this is good. Because we're seeing like some people who are like, this is, I mean, it's not good as in the results are good. I'm talking about the collection is good. All right, you should know I'm not trying to like pick for results here. There is absolutely no deterioration in JD's support as of now. Well, that's not true. He deteriorated already, but since the last time that we published a poll, he has not fallen since. In fact, it looks like he'll tick up like 2 points. But he was at like 60 when we first looked at it. Some of this stuff just looks consistent. Republicans getting their ass kicked on the generic ballot. About right. Looks like a little bit more support for capturing Maduro. And I'll tell you what, right now, that is a direct result of nothing else falling apart in Venezuela, which is what, that's why I took a little bit different approach than like Barnes and others. Like, let's just see where it goes. Now, people don't like the idea of, hey, Trump said we're going to run Venezuela. Do you think we should do that? Like, that is not okay. Taking Greenland by force, also off the table. Buying it, slightly positive. That, and for me, that's good enough because Greenland is vital. It is vital. It's vital. It's vital. Just take it. By the way, Greenland used to be ours basically anyway. What's Denmark going to do? Throw a fucking snowball at us? Oh, hold on. Uh-oh. Looks like I got in trouble, guys. Yep, got in trouble. You're not supposed to talk about that publicly. You know what I have to say to that? Look at me real close. Look in the camera. That's what you can do. And you weren't supposed to go to him without either, you know what I'm talking, I don't want to say it. You weren't supposed to do that. You weren't supposed to go around other people's backs and sell a line of bullshit. How about that? You weren't supposed to do that. Explicit agreement. I will do this if you agree to this. And the only reason I was doing it anyway was to help you avoid all the landmines that you constantly want to jump on. It's like it's intentional. Some of it is they're just so dirty and they're just so selfish. They don't give a shit. They don't care about the long-term impact to the party or the American public. They don't care. They are selfish. All they care about is getting what they want. And some of it's just stupidity. They're dumb. They're incredibly dumb. And by the way, to the rest of you, the other group of haters, I pulled Tucker versus Levin. And some of your other Israel First voices, they asked me to. Some people, it's amazing. Like Tucker's so much more well-known among Republicans. He's so much more well-known. Some of these other people that you're led to believe are so influential, they have no fucking clue who they are. There's like 55%. I don't know. Unknown. Not enough to have an opinion. Even in a state that is arguably a neocon state, it is represented by a neocon. This is one of Tucker's worst states. He's majority and plus 30 favorable. Where's Mark Levin? 22%. With a huge chunk saying, I don't know who the guy is. Why? Because young people don't. You got to be 50 and above to have a strong understanding of who Mark Levin is. Younger people, younger Republicans, they're like, I don't fucking know. I watch Asmund Gold, I'm not kidding. I'm not joking. All right, let's get to some questions. It's 2:51. I just don't know what else it's like. They do it on purpose. They do it on purpose. I know some of these people are doing it on purpose because the truth is they hate Donald Trump and they want Trump to fail so they can say, I told you so. Let's go back to the Rhino Party now. Oh, by the way, I wonder what America First Republicanism is. Oof, God. Too focused on foreign policy just keeps getting worse. 57.2 America First, 37.6 traditional Republican. What about 1,200? That's 1,200 recent interviews. That's ugly. That's ugly as shit. How many undecided now? It's huge. It's not that big. 15.2. So what's going on here is some people because this took us a while to totally grasp what was happening. Some people, especially younger, who were calling themselves Republicans 6 months ago, right? Actually, probably a little bit more now, but because the trend started back then. Those people are now calling themselves independent. And if they're calling themselves independent, they don't get that question. So they're being taken out. How do I know? Because I can see them in the recall vote. They're a little bit too much. Harris and Trump basically split independents. If you look at the voter validated surveys, you'll see maybe Trump, it depends on which one you're looking at. Maybe she won them by one. Maybe Trump won them by one. We can see like a Trump +3, Trump +4. That's where they are. And we know it's where they are. They fit the demographic profile of the people we're missing in the Republican self-identified coalition that existed a year ago. They're gone. They don't even call themselves Republican anymore. And when we give them the independent identification question, which is obviously they get rerouted from being asked whether they're America First or traditional Republican. They're not asked that if they don't identify as Republican. If they get a different one that goes to those who identify as independents. And they are bloating slightly the column that is shares little in common with either, meaning either party. All right, let's get to the questions. Start sticking my foot up people's asses who bother me in the middle of a show. It's just disrespectful and annoying. I don't care how mad you are. I don't give a shit. Hope for the better. I think it's time for a populist third party. I can't stomach the stupidity, ignorance, or outright deception of Republicans anymore. Half are burning the country down, and the other half are selling the wood. Oh, wow. Bravo. That's a really good way to put it. And honestly, that is what's happening in D.C. Go to D.C., you will see it. I can't see myself celebrating America's 250th as anything other than a funeral. Oof. You know me, hope for the better future. Hope for better. I'm an eternal optimist. I do think, though, at some point, you may have to withhold your vote if you're a former Republican vote, right? And you'll hear people say, well, what do you say? It's a people's pundit suggesting that you hand the Congress to Democrats. Listen, I don't know what to tell you. Massey's amendment was defeated by 50 plus Republican congressmen who have Donald Trump's endorsement. All of the USAID bullshit that others tried to remove from this bill, this spending bill. You have any idea how many of them are endorsed by Donald Trump that was defeated? They're beating themselves. They're doing nothing that is popularly supported. They haven't taken up Donald Trump's health care plan. They're going to fail the SAVE Act. They're beating themselves. They're crooks. So don't bitch and moan to me about giving this one Congress and giving. Why would you think that continuing to vote the same way for the same people is going to end with a different result? I've been telling you people since 2016, the election of one man, a revolution, does not make. That fucking town is corrupt. Just like sending Kash Patel and Dan Bongino down to the FBI wasn't going to clean up the FBI. It was going to eat Dan Bongino. Some of these things are not reformable. That party is not really reformable, especially with Donald Trump doing what he's doing. He honestly, when we're 5 years from now, something like that, we're going to look back and we're going to say, at this rate, we're going to look back and we're going to say, actually, if you think about it, it's hard to find one person who did more damage to MAGA than Donald Trump. Why? Because he let all of his consultants. Here's another problem, by the way. Wink, wink. You know who I'm talking about. Here's another problem I have with Mr. Pollster. They don't give a shit if their people are MAGA. They sell the endorsement if they get the contract. And they fuck over the most America First candidate in the damn race. It's never to them been about who supports the president and the president's agenda the most. Never. It's always been about whose campaign can I get? And then when I get it, I will not make him, you don't make him, but I will tell the president, this is the one for you. That's how Randy Fine got Donald Trump's endorsement. That's how the genius he just endorsed for U.S. Senate in Louisiana. You're actually going to replace if Bill Cassidy loses, you're actually going to replace Bill Cassidy with a more liberal Republican. It's unreal. The only difference is she'll be loyal to Donald Trump for as long as she needs to be. Bill Cassidy is not right now. He doesn't get along with Trump. But on certain issues, you'll be able to count on Bill Cassidy to say, whoa, even for me, that's over the line, too much over the line. Maybe even on issues like immigration and certain amnesty provisions. This woman, Iowa, that woman was caucusing for Nikki Haley. She privately told people that Donald Trump incited an insurrection. But, and look, I'll just even say this out loud too. There were different people who ran JD's campaign for U.S. Senate. Why was there a switch? Because there has to be if you want to get Donald Trump's endorsement. You got to let so-and-so run a PAC. You got to let so-and-so poll for that PAC. The fact of the matter is, 3 people are making a fortune at the expense of all of you. And everyone's too afraid to say that because they're always afraid to be targeted. And they will be. Me, I just don't care. Never did. Don't care anymore. I care. Zero fucks given should be written on the back of my shirt. I just don't care. I've always realized this, but I've 100% come to realize that the most important thing for me to do is to tell the truth. No matter what. Movements come and go, politicians come and go, presidents come and go, governments come and go. Tell the truth. If we can't do mass deportations and go after illegals, shutting down their bank accounts and punishing businesses that employ them, then the country is over. That's right. That's absolutely right. It means Antifa has won. The left has won. The Google fanatics who wrote the AI that says the Great Replacement Theory is a conspiracy theory, a debunked conspiracy theory, they won. America is not a place, set of principles, collection of documents, or a creed. America is a people that the things flow out from as a result. The people are the soil those other things grow from. No point in anything if that's gone. America won't be America, so who cares? Yeah. Hey, Owen, did you happen to... I'll put a clip in it. I know like so many people know, which is like nothing. In the polling, it's like, oh my God, Tucker's such a fringe guy. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? He's got like a 20% unfavorable number. It's ridiculous. But anyway, did you see the Tucker where he was like citing the stats and how demographics have changed in even major U.S. cities over the years? And then I was watching this documentary on BMF. There's a second season, Black Mafia Family, which I find to be actually fascinating. Like how these two brothers, the Flannery brothers, did what they did. I think it's absolutely, amazing. But Detroit, look at it. Look, Owen, perfect example. And they even say it. They were like, once they sold us out, all the white people left. And there was nothing left for us. And we had no other choice. This is what I didn't want to walk around with holes in my fucking shoes. The father worked at a Chrysler plant. I mean, you take this stuff away from people, they have nothing. And then, of course, all of the affluent people leave, and then there's literally nothing left. Like they basically said once it became not an American city anymore, they turned the lights off. Like literally, the street lights stopped coming on. Trump floated non-enforcement on hospitality and agriculture. He does not believe or understand the issue or how it seems to the public. Listen, I can't. I wish I want, and soon I know I will be able to tell you guys everything in a fuller story. We even floated that. We have researched this. That's not okay. In fact, it looks worse, which I imagine from your comment you understand. If you say, oh, you know what, we're going to make an exception for the people who pick that corn and fold my clothes, it looks even worse. Our job is to watch people as they're reading this stuff, to watch their visual cues. We have software that analyzes it. The disgust on the looks in their faces, Robert. The disgust reading it. You can see right when they get to picking crops and folding laundry, which isn't even how we wrote it. Hospitality and agriculture. And they're like, the fuck? You could see it in their face. Wait a minute. If you're going to give exceptions, you give it to anyone. Aren't we supposed to be a free market, by the way? Wherever they go, wherever they're getting work, and that's where there's a need. Why would you say they're only allowed to stay if they pick crops? Sounds horrible. Is there no self-awareness? It's like you can only stay if you fold my shirt, and you know what else, Juanita, and your husband picks corn. It's denigrating. Including the Hispanic American citizens. Hell, even Carney has successfully reversed immigration. This should be an easy sell. It is an easy sell. But a big part of it is, you know what? The donors, we know what you want. Now do me a favor and get the fuck out of the room while the rest of us big boys talk about how to do something. And who's that knocking on the other door? Go home, BB. We have some important things to do. Let's handle our own shit first and we'll deal with you, BB. Trump pushed out on Doge. Well, that's what that bill is surrendering all of the Doge. Not all of it, but so much of the work that Doge uncovered, that Doge did to uncover what they did. That bill that Republicans just defeated for themselves with themselves. 71 Republicans. The most popular thing for young people. Immigration surrender coming, Epstein files. When push comes to shove on Trump 2.0, he has been rolling over a whole lot. Longer it goes, more JD Vance and the rest look terrible too. Yeah, unfortunately, that's the position the vice president's in. And I hope he can somehow figure out a way to finagle out of it. But that's the reality. It's going to be very hard if Trump continues down this road. It's going to be very, very hard for JD to say, but I could have done better. They're going to say, why didn't you stop him? Why didn't you defend our position? And believe me, I know he does. Except on the Israel thing. I was a little bit thrown off on the Iran strikes on behalf of Israel. I think it's Trump, and people need to call him out. Not Pam, Susie, Cash, Bessent, Noam, and the rest. Look, at the bottom line, at the end of the day, the president's the president, guys. He's the president, period, end of story. The buck stops with him. Yes, sometimes when the cat's away, the mice play. But look, he's had enough time now to know this and to change this. They're not done. They're going to bomb Iran. They are. There's a massive buildup right now going on. It looks like Bush invading Iraq. I'm serious. Only worse. There's thousands and thousands of soldiers. But the only reason it didn't happen before, and I guess I'm the only person who knows the truth. I'm the only person who knows the truth, willing to say it. Bibi was prepared to have a ton of Israeli casualties, being his defense was not ready. Donald Trump was not. That's it. I mean, when you put past all, when you like look past all the other like nice worded ways that everyone keeps saying, oh, but Susie said caution on this, and and JD was the one who was like more gung ho about it. About what? What was it specifically that they were debating? For some reason, I think JD was more inclined to believe a lying Netanyahu. I don't know why. And Barnes was right. I mean, the intelligence agencies are lying a lot to the president, and he just doesn't seem to give a shit. And then you brought up Noam before. I can't find it. But to go with your comment, I'm trying to get something here. I told you guys this was coming. I knew about this investigation before it was made public. And now it's like they're actively just dismissing it. Like actively just dismissing like that. Oh, Corey Lewandowski laughed about it. Like, what? This is not funny. Like, I don't know what you're laughing at. The Democrats have your ass in a sling. Here we go. I got it. And actually, I'm going to show Barnes's reaction first. This goes to what you're saying. Like, again, at some point, the buck has to stop with the president. He's got to know. He does know. He's got to know. And that's it, So people will hold him accountable for it, right? All right. So, and by the way, I look at this one respondent here, and I understand where he's coming from because, like, you don't want to believe some of the liberal media. I know, though, that it's true. I know it's true. I personally do. Says Corey brags about lining his pockets with insider deals, including those from one lover to another. It helps the one of the lovers it helps that one of the lovers is the head of the department at issue. And this is Ken Vogel, who has not always done a good job, saying DHS Gov has downplayed Corey Lewandowski's role in contracting decisions. But an Axios reporter overheard Lewandowski last week at Reagan Airport talking loudly into his phone about DHS contracts and contractors, including Palantir Tech. She's super shady company, by the way. Super shady. Glenn Greenwald has done a lot of stuff on this. Not this story, Palantir themselves. Listen, Palantir Tech is, okay, how can I put this nicely? Okay, software that dominates. All right. This is the Democrats' allegation, okay? And this allegation is bad. It'll get her impeached. The Democrats' allegation, and Palantir is totally different from some of this, is, I hate to say it, the Democrats' allegation is that the secretary is having an affair with Lewandowski. And as a way to, like, a consolation prize for his wife, Lewandowski's wife gets contracts and others are getting contracts this way without the bidding process. You can't do that. You can't. Not even because you're sleeping with one, it's your lover, like it's your lover's wife. Like, you can't do that. That's corruption. That's patronage. You have to go through the bidding process. That's how healthy governments are run. Otherwise, we're just doling out things to our friends and shit. Ultimately, you can even give it to your friend, but you have to go through the bidding process. Here is Ken Vogel talking about that process. I mean, this isn't funny. All right. So what is essentially saying is he's using his sexual relationship with the secretary to decide who does and does not get contracts. That's what he's screaming into the phone about. Noam is probably going to be first, as I understand it. And it's stupid not to talk to the enemy. As I understand it, Noam is the first to have impeachment articles seriously pursued against her, and it'll be over this. Now, Bondi's the worst, but as far as how much what they have, but Noam is the easiest case to make, and she will be the first one that they go after. Yeah, I'm sorry. I mean, I really, really wish that it doesn't even matter, guys, if they're not successful. Let me just explain this. They will keep bringing these, and they will keep grinding the government to a halt, and the whole world's going to hear about all of this. MAGA is going to look like a total fraud. A total fraud. And then they'll get to the grand poobah of it all. The Justice Department. And you'll never have authority to speak on the deep state ever again. Or like corruption, pay for play, the way that the right had the moral authority to speak about it during the Hillary Clinton days and Joe Biden's days, even with his son. It's not going to happen. That'll all be over, guys. That's a good question. I think he is significantly hurt. And for those who are probably just listening, Mark Kelly's chances for the Democratic nomination. I was thinking of putting Mark Kelly into the tracker. I'll give you guys the numbers right now. So far, the most recent collected numbers. I will have to refresh it though, because we probably have more interviews. I'm not saying that the margins will change, but I do feel like there is another lane here. The problem is Mark Kelly's recent run afoul of the seditious six and him being busted in rank. He could play victim all he wants. That's not going to play well with the American public. It's not. It's going to look very, very bad. It's going to look like, yeah, we do have more responses. Here, I'll show you guys the Democrat nomination. This is raw coming in right now, but you'll see why I'm doing it. Just to show you that I do think there's another lane here. All right. Can you see it? So Harris still leads. She leads with a little bit more, actually. 32.6. Newsom still stuck at 20, roughly. He's at 21.1. Unsure is in third with 14. Pete Buttigieg is at 11. He's definitely running for president. Josh Shapiro now is at 6. I think he was at Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez ticked up 2 points. She's at 5.4. Gretchen Whitmer's down there. Andy Bashir is down there. I think, Mark, time heals a lot of wounds in politics, Alan. That's a good question. We'll just have to see. I think that's a really good. I would have viewed him as, almost like a dark horse, but unfortunately, but not unfortunately for him, I do think that's going to be a hurdle. That's going to be a hurdle. Rich, do you agree it's going to take 3 election cycles or more for the poor on the left and right to join together and take the country back? Yeah. I think if Trump fails, I think there'll be a sharp move to the left. You'll get somebody like an AOC or an AOC-like agenda, no matter who it is. That'll fail because it never is successful. The problem is it'll do a lot of damage, even worse than the damage that Biden did. And it's unfortunate. The countries will suffer greatly for it. And then there'll probably be one more big monster failure. Maybe not. Maybe it'll be after that. But I do think you're going to see a lot of people. As of right now, you're going to see a ton of people. Like the New York Times poll was right. You're going to see a ton of people sit out in 26. 28. Yeah, I know. She asked me to. I don't care what she wants. Why is everybody calling? Like, I'm on the fucking. I'm still. Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry. I just had a bunch of text messages. I had to copy and paste, go fuck yourself 4 times, All right. I am still optimistic, Jonathan, about the turnaround. I am. I feel like it is possible. First of all, I really do think, because Democrats are so bad, and just so everyone knows, let me read Jonathan's message. All right. You guys get the gist of the Democratic nomination. So Jonathan says, Rich, are you still optimistic for a turnaround in the Trump administration in spite of this and other numerous missteps? JD will and must get more and more active in course correcting the president. Yeah, unfortunately, JD was wrong about Iran. He's badly wrong. He thinks they could just go and help the Israelis and that's it. And I haven't had a much more detailed conversation with him, but let me take the opportunity now to tell you how's that fucking working out in Syria. And by the way, you think like the president's son-in-law making presentations about the new city of Gaza after everyone's fucking exterminated? You think that's going to fly right too with people? They can't rule shit. And they can't defend themselves. So you have to sell to the American public all of those deaths that come back. You miss one supersonic missile and it hits Jerusalem, it's fucking on you, man. They don't get their greater Israel is the right answer to this. It's overwhelmingly unpopular. It's unbelievable how unpopular this is. I know you got polling from somebody else that shows, oh, it's kind of close. Close is not good in military actions. First of all, it's not close. It's not. 4 in 10 Republicans think you're doing this because you're BB's bitch. 4 in 10 Republicans. They don't even believe that Iran is in the national security interest of the United States. 25% don't think we should have any role in the Middle East at all. And even if I was wrong and they were right, 45, 42 isn't a good number, isn't a good spread for a military action. Disastrous military actions have had 80, 90% approval ratings. That's where it starts or should start if you want to have any prayer of it not becoming a public opinion debacle. Grenada was 82%. And still wasn't a good idea. But I am an eternal optimist, Jonathan. I am. I just don't, you know what part of that is about? I don't like quitting. So when people are like, oh, it's not as bad. I mean, yeah, he's lost support, but it's not as bad as you keep saying it is. Like, any loss is a disaster. They're going to take the Congress and destroy the whole fucking administration. So I remain optimistic because you shouldn't accept a government. You have any idea how dysfunctional this government's going to be if Democrats take either one of these chambers? And they don't want to tell you guys that because they don't want their own voters to know publicly how bad it really is. Their own polling, they're down in Alaska. John Husted is tied in Ohio. Their coronated candidate in Iowa is up like 3 points. Folks, you know what happens when numbers are that close when they shouldn't be that close? The polls are typically wrong and they get wiped out. Tried warning you, and you got DeSantis in Florida trying to warn them now that Florida isn't just that red, bro, because it's always going to be. It turned that red, standing for what we stood for. Taking the actions we said we were going to take. Cubans split their vote between Obama and Mitt Romney. Don't forget that. Let's go back to locals. D-Weed, how you been? And Ryan D's comments real short, so let me just read it. We are fucking screwed, aren't we? I mean, keep fighting the good fight, Ryan, but as of right now, the donors and the foreign interests are absolutely winning. They are. And I hate to say, they are, because I'm telling you, he orders that strike either the end of this next month or mid-March. You might as well just go get the axe and chop the fucking leg right off the stool. They're done. Those voters are not voting. They're not voting. They're not going to vote at all. There's just false sense that the generic ballot is actually much closer. And it's much closer. It's not that bad. No, dude. Those are if you don't force the entire registered voter universe to pick whether or not they're going to stay home and then model that, how likely they are, do they have the vote history to back it up, all of that. When you get into the certainty aspect, vote history, enthusiasm, and you tighten those voter models, Democrats just start fucking slamming them. Certain to vote, 49-44. 49-44. That's just today. Let's look at likely alone. I think that might be a little closer. Oh my God, it's so bad. That goes to show you that's how tight of a voter model we got to go down to. Why? Because the undecided number goes to 17%. Goes to tell you they're not going to vote. They're not going to vote. And I guarantee you, if I look at the lean, yep, someone else, third party, out of those undecided, it's 58%. Those people aren't voting. It's a false sense that the race is closer than it is. They're not going to vote. I bet you Republicans lead in unlikely. Wait. No, undecided leads. Democrats still leading by 3 among them. It's just so bad. What about certain not to vote? Curious. Certain not to vote. Let's go back. Sometimes it loads and it loads in the wrong spot. Come on, where are we at? Certain not to vote. Come on now. Oh my God, Trump's approval rating on certain not to vote. You ready? Oh my God, it's so bad. 25.6%. Yuck! Actually, Democrats lead with that too. 18-16. They're out though. You got 55% who are undecided, another 12% who basically say that there's someone else third party. They're not. That's why pollsters weed them out. That's not serious. It's part of the registered voter sample. It's why they're always lower in vote shares, 42-45, 40 or 39-44. That's why they're always lower, those kind of margins. You get to the certain to vote, you look at vote history, you'll get the real number. The real number is like Democrat plus 6. It's bad. It's really bad. If we look at only enthusiastic, let's look at enthusiasm. Extremely, to me, has always been the one that matters the most. If Republicans are a little bit closer now, oh my God, ouch, 52.2 to 4.6 Democrats. You know what? I'm taking a screenshot of that and I'm putting this up here for you guys. Extremely motivated to vote. Hold on, let me get Big Data Poll's logo in there so someone doesn't try to steal it. Look, I got a new poll out. Can't have these numbers, Tony. Come up with your own fucking question, Tony. And you pretend like it's your idea or something. Dick Cheese. We've been polling that question since October. Can I give YouTube? Can I upload YouTube? I can't upload it. Dang, YouTube. I know I can in locals. I don't know what I'm going to do. Join locals? I mean, I'm serious. Yeah. Let me put this up for, I can only upload it to locals, so I'm putting it into the chat for locals right now. Look at that. God, locals, you're pissed, huh? There's a lot of people going on here. D-Weege, I have no idea what the White House is doing. They should have taken that drop crime report, lowest since 1900, and turned it into a story about deportations. My God. I literally told them that. Literally told them to link that. They don't listen. I don't know what to say. They don't have a war room. They're all watching Rav and the president's Twitter feed, Truth feed. Even Obama had a war room where Fox News was up all the time. Biden, they monitored your tweets. They were looking at Twitter constantly. Looking at Fox, looking at podcasts. If he softens on immigration, I'm out. It's all that matters to me. Yeah. I mean, there are so many one-issue voters on the right. So many. Rich, what do you think of the cash advantage GOP is over Dems for congressional races? It's fake. That's a good question. Ideas, not money. It's fake. The Democrats don't use traditional methods anymore like DCCC or the DNC. They don't do that. Republicans do it. They don't. They use third-party groups. And that's why in 22 ended up they had a much bigger cash advantage than anyone thought they had. They don't use that anymore. They just don't. So like it is a gross, people who are out there on Twitter, like reporters, and like I've seen a pollster do it, and I'm like, does he not know? I hope that's like, first of all, neither is flattering. Either he's that much of a noob, and he is a noob pollster. Either he's that much of a noob, he doesn't know how Democrats do things now compared to how they did them 10, 20 years ago. You know, actually, even before Citizens, she's like, they bitch so much about Citizens United, yet they learned how to use Citizens United way better than us. Way better. I like this, Andrew. 0 fucks here. First time, few times I was around politicians, tried to advocate. I was super nice. Got nothing done. They're human like the rest of us. The squeaky wheel gets the grease. Be a truth teller and a useful advocate or go home. That's so true. An idea says again, Rich, I've spoken to blue collar workers that say they don't see the no tax on tips on their paychecks. Why is this happening? Convoluted as hell. Another thing, everyone's like, they're going to see no tax on tips soon. They're going to see this. They're going to see that. Convoluted as hell. There's also a loophole that allows the blue states to keep that shit. Is he in a blue state? I bet you there are red states doing it too. I bet you there are. I bet you. When they file their tax returns, then they will see it. Then they will see the impact of it, at least. And even then, they may not be happy with what they see. It's the way that Republicans had to finagle their way around it. They're scumbags. So they didn't give Trump the version he wanted. And it's not as simple as it sounds. If you're running on no tax on tips, boy, you better think again. If Trump values Greenland, he needs to drop the Iran-Israel deal right now. Yeah, I totally agree. One at a time. You cannot do both. There's an armada headed right to Iran. Absolutely. Absolutely. And the death toll is, I mean, they're so full of shit with these dead protesters. The protests weren't organic, and they were still being talked about in the West when they were done. Yeah, JD needs to get way more forceful. I don't care how much it hurts him. If he can't, I won't vote, and I won't tell others to. Grow a pair of balls. Yeah, I mean, that's it. Will this be the cycle that renders Trump's endorsement useless? It's already diminished quite a bit, Travis. Like once upon a time, I pulled the impact of the endorsement in several. It depends where it is, what region of the country it's in. In Georgia, for instance, it's always been rather weak. It's really weak right now. Some neighboring states, same thing, but not Florida. Florida is still a big deal. Look. Yeah, he has devaluated the endorsement anyway by basically, you know, like doing his own version of quantitative easing, like printing beyond what he has for it. So he's giving it out like candy. He's giving it to rhinos like crazy. I mean, again, the USAID bill, that amendment that got voted down in the spending bill, that's 51 no votes are Trump endorsements. I'm not kidding. 51 out of the 70 something. I believe it. It's a lot. It's a lot. We do not have multiple elections to right the ship. It's late stage Rhodesia, and the left will simply centralize and make permanent their power, like in VA, punishing and Maryland. Don't forget Maryland, Owen. They tricked the shit out of Indiana. Dumb fucking Republicans. Stupid idiots. They said, okay, let's make the deal. Westmoreland said, psych! Now they lost the redistricting war. This is another thing with all these morons, again, wannabes on Twitter, pretend they need to overperform by 13 points. No, they don't. They don't. They lost the redistricting war. Democrats are, as of now, on estimate, +3. You need the VRA decision now. It doesn't even matter if it comes in June. It'll be too late. States have primaries in April, in May, in June, in July. It's not enough time. It'll count next cycle. Noobs. You think you know politics. You don't know shit. It's the same reason you didn't understand nobody was voting for controversial legislation in the second year. He's got a whole other year. No, he didn't. So when BB came to town in April again And I told you it's either this or MAGA, and you didn't believe it. Well, suck it, because now we're here. You were wrong, because you're a noob. You don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Congress doesn't behave that way. And everyone knows it who knows anything about that damn town. They fundraise, they hide, and they dodge controversial bills so they can get reelected. That's it. Acting like they were going to adopt the national voter ID law in the second year. Were you fucking born yesterday? Idiots. Was Doge shut down with Trump's blessing? What was the game plan to defund the deep state, DNC, RNC slush funds like USAID? Why wasn't it a priority? Rocket Boy, the truth is, this is why so many, and Barnes's version of this is right. That's why that group, the swampy group, wanted Elon gone, because they didn't want to go after this stuff. They make money off it too. Does it benefit disproportionately the left? Of course, but they don't care. That is perfectly normal corruption in Washington, D.C. That's part of that's like a Christmas bonus. They get their health care, they get their pensions, they get their annual salary, they get their per diem, and they get their slush funds. Now, last minute, they're like, Elon, please fund something to help us. Like, it's just, did it happen with Trump's blessing? They got into a fight. It's kind of a long story. Definitely a big part of it was over the director of NASA. The NASA administrator is actually what it's called, which Elon got as part of, I guess, a promise to fund stuff, which I can't really talk about now because they don't even know fully what's going on, but they're going to try to scale something up that is definitely going to enable, if the president, this is why I'm still, and I try to remain optimistic, because the president being out there, as long as he doesn't fuck up too much, the president being out there, if they can scale up some of these tools, the president being up there pushing people to do this can make a real difference. It can have this like magnifying impact. The vice president is very well aware of it. He knows he was a huge help, by the way, in 2024, going everywhere and saying this. It can have a big impact. So you can catch Democrats off guard. The media mocked it in 24, and the last laugh was on them. Oh, what's the bet? At least one of those messages is about Trump blockading Cuba. What do you mean? What we were talking about? What do you mean, long reach? About and you can answer on locals too, and I'll look. How many revisions of your speech on the March Minnesota fundraiser are you going to go through? You know what? Honestly, I think I can what I want to say. I think I can keep it still. That's so funny. While I wait for long reach. I mean, I think I can keep this to the same thing, And censored news. 1,200 responses. What's the margin on that? Are you confident that's representative of the entire polls? The entire polls sampling error. Margin of error is not exactly the accurate term to use anymore. All right, not everybody is calling landlines, and we can say they're margins of error. Right, that's a different wrong term. It's a sampling error, which is a much more inclusive way of understanding it. The overall polls sampling error is going to be no more than 2.1%. A primary sampling error is going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of 3.5 when I'm done. At this point, it's probably close to that. I mean, it depends, of course, what the pollster expects for turnout. We're going to be very, very, is a registered voter at that point. So we'll be very, uncontroversial, right? And it's a registered voter universe, so you don't really have to do that. Project what turnout is only in the likely voter you do. Yes, it is. It's representative. There'll be modest tweaks to weights. It will not change huge overall numbers. So maybe you'll get like a 52 becomes like a 51.2, or it's not going to make some massive difference. There's a reason, and I don't want to get into it. There's a reason why our raw data does not come back crazy. All right. Rich, the worst is knowing that the next Dem candidate will go even further left on immigration and the economy. GOP doesn't understand the cost of failure. No, they do not. And that's probably a great place to end. No, they do not. And by the way, neither does the administration. Which I said something along the lines of, I don't think you guys fully appreciate how many people looked at you as the last chance, how right they probably are, and how visceral and negative their reaction will be if you fail or perceive to have failed to deal with the systemic corruption and imbalance in the system. And, we can look at like what success looks like, but ultimately, I don't think you can call the administration a success unless they deal with the fundamental imbalance between the two classes in this system, or at least begin to. And that part of that is definitely, he's doing like a lot of good things on immigration, net negative immigration, stuff like that. We're seeing in Texas, for example, there will the trend for domestic, births versus foreign born births. That's all great and everything, but it doesn't fucking matter if you don't clean the system up, or at least set it back on the course it was on before, I think you probably pinpoint this to when they decided to kill a president and nobody did anything about it. It was all downhill from there, really. But I don't think in the minds of these voters, you can claim to be a success if you don't handle that. There's that, because to them, as I explained the other day when I was trying to explain why the Epstein issue was in fact such a big deal and why you lost all these young voters over it, they view all the other issues that the country is facing. They view them to be the result of this unfair system where the rich gets away with everything you would not. The elites, the ruling class, they get away with all the stuff you would not. But they're exploiting that privilege in the system, and they're doing it at the expense of others, including the voters who believe this, right? And to them, that system being allowed to stand is why we have all these other things: wealth inequality, an unruly immigration system. Why? Because the wealthy wanted sex toys and clothing folders and hotel cleaners and lawn cutters and cheap labor. They wanted that. The masses never voted on that. They wanted that, and they got it, and they broke our immigration system to do it. We're how many trillion in debt now? I don't even want to bring the debt clock up. It gives me legit anxiety. Because the elites wanted a new global order. The elites wanted war. They didn't want us to enjoy a peace dividend and invest it back in ourselves. Well, fuck that. When you can just spend it on them and they can make more money on it. So they're right. It's like something that I've recently realized, like I've gained a greater understanding of it. They believe that because that's fucking right. That's true. Find me an issue where the soul, like the core reason for this issue isn't this sickness in the system. It is. Hell, even education, we spend more on any other student than per student than any other Western developed country. Right. Does it all go to them? Nope. We have corrupt teachers unions, and the elites in those teachers unions get what they want in exchange for political contributions. The little guy can't, they can. So it all stems from that. So I guess I've just come to the conclusion that the voter is right. And now I understand it with more clarity. Not that I didn't before. Not that I didn't. Those and the health speculation again, that nasty bruise on his hand. Oh. And you're getting a lot of Cuba noise down there. Oh, dear. Oh, man. I'll tell you what, Long Range, you know damn well Lindsey Graham and Marco Rubio, they want Cuba so bad they can taste it. They can taste it. That's a good question, Owen. I don't know the answer to that. That's a really good question. I wish I would know it, but I don't. All right, let's go ahead and as much as I appreciate all of the super chats and questions, the only solutions are Fed posts. You're talking about like the U.S. attorney stuff. Is that what you're talking about? Because that is a truth. Like, I think maybe you're referring to what Cernovich was talking about, which is like the blue slips being, a reason why there's not a lot of actions being taken, which he is right. Technically, that is true. It's not all. That's not the entire reason. It's not. Like, there are things Pam Bondi is intentionally not doing. Like, you think she just accidentally waited till the statute ran out to charge Comey and then fuck it up? Like, no. But if that's what you mean, of course, if we had more U.S. attorneys, there would be more things happening. But I will say that's never going to happen. Neither is the filibuster. And that's because Republican senators are corrupt. That is a value to rent seekers that they don't want to give up. It increases the value of their position in the eyes of rent seekers being special interests. If you can prevent or push a U.S. attorney from getting into a post, boy, that's worth a lot of money, isn't it? The filibuster. You nuke the filibuster, you nuke a great deal of their value to rent seekers. By the way, when was the filibuster adopted again? Right. Was it always a practice? Nope. Actually, it was not. It was not the norm. Maybe it became the norm when senators became so valuable to rent seekers. Right. It's like big problem from everything. Trump ran on draining the swamp. He let Elon stick his neck out, then let him get leveraged and rolled for money to fund rhinos. How pissed is MAGA? Not enough. Yeah. Oh man, that actually, Rocket Boy, that is unfortunately pretty true. That did happen, Elon, and that's why he's like, no, you're gonna give me what I fucking want. Sure, I'm going to fund these bullshit candidates who he knows. He knows the president's endorsing a bunch of scumbags and losers. He knows it. But he's going to get the contracts for space out of it. He's got his NASA administrator, who was the right call anyway. Like, those are the right people that are like recent, I was a Democrat, converts now to MAGA. Those are the right calls. Those people you do want. The losers in the Justice Department who are fucking with antitrust, who were just Democrats like a year ago, wrong. They're doing it for lobbyist money. There's a big difference. Elon really believes in that work. And so do I, by the way. He's thoroughly convinced me we need to be a multi-planet species. We have got to be a multi-planet species. And it has to be, even though we're not perfect, it has to be the United States who leads the effort. It can't be China or Russia. Oh, my God. Could you imagine if they were like our representatives? Oh, my God. Oh, my God. Then again, I'm not sure we're any better at this point. But, we got to be. I'd rather it be Trump than Putin. Or no, I'd rather it be Trump than Xi. I'd rather it be Trump than anyone in NATO. Could you imagine those Marys being our diplomats in the cosmos? Oh, Lord. They'd run all over us. Macron with his fucking glasses. They'd be like, can you take those things off and look me in the eye, please? No. Oh, no. God. You know what? This planet's expendable. Hit the button. They're a violent, stupid species. I'm laughing, but it's kind of not funny, God forbid. Thank God we're not there yet. Yeah, I guess that's probably it. What is it? It's Friday. Yeah, it's Friday. Locals, we'll talk about this separately at another time. One dance competition for my daughter I'd like to go to, and I'm going to miss a book club to do it. It's not this week. It's the next week, I think. But we'll do that. We'll talk about that more when the time comes. Don't forget, If you like the videos, to like them, to share them far and wide. Go check out the Public Polling Project for 2 reasons. One, of course, to contribute if you don't contribute already. Second is, if you are, please go log in, check your contributions, make sure that you're not giving reoccurring contributions when you don't want to. And if you do want to, make sure that they're being contributed to the correct campaign. Right? Not an old, already funded, or even if it's not funded. Doesn't matter. We move on. So don't fund old campaigns, which is for polling, of course, go check it out and make sure that all is well, right? If you did not go and see my interview with Viva earlier, I got a chance to look at it recently. It was earlier the week, but I got a chance to look at it. You should go check it out. All right. If you didn't already, you should go check it out. It's a good interview. All right. 346. Whoop, whoop. Not bad. I knew I was going to go over. Sorry if I kept you guys a little bit too long. Hopefully I didn't get in the way of your favorite other show, but the hell with them anyway, right? All right, guys, I'll see you later. Nothing but love for you. I think the storm's going to be good, but for those of you who may still get some pretty bad brunt of it, make sure you're prepared, make sure you're safe, and make sure you're warm. All right, guys, I'll see you all later.